You're watching the Smartcage podcast with Todd Atkins and Andrew Benjamin of the We Are Rising podcast, the #1 PFL podcast on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and be on the lookout for future episodes.
All right, this is Todd Atkins. I'm back with Andrew Benjamin. It's been a little bit since we did Smartcage podcast. PFL's back with the semifinals, and we're going to get right to it. So I'm going to start out just because I'm looking at the top brackets here. So we had Jason Jackson versus Thad Jean, and Logan Storley versus Masayuki Kikuri. And this was the middle or welterweight tournament. So maybe start out with Jackson and Jean. What did you think of the fight?
Oh man, this was probably outside of UFC, maybe the most high level welterweight fight in maybe a long time. I can't remember anything about Bellator, like anything, but like in this current era of welterweights, because I think Thad Jean's undefeated. Jason Jackson's been on that insane streak, and not to mention a streak where this guy went from not finishing anybody to finishing all of his opponents. And this really is like a big what. Also, not to mention as well, Thad Jean comes into this tournament. When did he come? Wait, was it the week of? I think it was. I think it was like not that very short notice, very short notice, and won his first fight. Without that, this was his toughest test to date, Todd. That's what I'm telling you. And listen, I know that there was some debate about who won. This is the problem with split decisions, especially the way it went. It's hard to. I think you could say either guy won depending on what you use as a barometer to win round by round. So I don't know if you agree with the decision. I'm happy with the decision. It's one of those too close to call things. This wasn't a robbery. This wasn't a Diego Sanchez, Ross Pearson type of robbery, or like Johnny Hendricks, GSP. This one to me was as close as you possibly can get, and I think I'm happy with the decision.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a close fight, it's hard to claim robbery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can only do that when a fight is clearly.
Well, here's in the current era. The current era of whenever I hear the term robbery, it means that person lost money, a lot of money on their bet. That's what I interpret when I hear robbery in this current day and age. This isn't the era of no longer is robbery meaning when Canelo beats Triple G or goes a draw with Triple G. That I think that era of robberies that now it just means I lost a huge amount of money on a bet.
One thing I think you said that was interesting is how high level it was, and I think tournaments as they go on, and you're getting to the last few guys, that's what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, granted, the next fight we'll talk about was one-sided, but still, I think more often than not, especially the finals, you're going to get matchups of guys that are very high level and where it's, I'd say where the interest is really high because you had two guys work their way through the tournament. They had to beat different kind of people. And so I think that's just a byproduct of something that we both like, which is tournament format.
Oh, absolutely, Todd. And PFL right now is doing this great epic tournament format, and it's working out extremely well so far, in my opinion. And allowing elbows and all that good stuff. But also, yeah, this isn't. There's no record padding going on here, Todd. There's no, they're not carefully matchmaking like some other promotions do. This is you are at the further it gets, like you said. And I know people complain about decisions. Decisions aren't bad. That decisions, can some decisions be bad? Sure, but here's the thing: both Jason Jackson and Thad Jean are epic elite fighters. These guys are hard to finish. These guys know the rigors of MMA. This is why they're at the top of their game. So it's expected why it would go all 3 rounds. Not that's how MMA is. This is these aren't 1 and 5 guys taking on a 10-0 guy and there's a finish in 30 seconds. This is a product of how good the guys are. Now, I know some people want a finish, and I get that, but when you have guys that are that good, they're just hard to finish. That's just how it is, man.
Yeah, I don't care about finishes, and as we get to Logan Storley, I'll kind of talk about that more. But finish to me is just a way to win a fight. That's it.
Yeah, and also, some people just are lucky to get finishes. Um, sometimes a finish doesn't even mean anything. I'll always point to Sarah McMahon versus Ronda Rousey, where Ronda Rousey finished Sarah McMahon, but it shouldn't have been a finish, and a lot of people agree with that. Um, and yeah, this is it's just it. You shouldn't interpret a decision as a boring match. A decision does not mean a bad fight. Some of the greatest fights have gone the full distance. Some fights have only lasted 1 round. Joe Lozon, who would yeah, Joe Lozon, who would always have like the best fight of night in just round one. And then you have people, who will, can have 3 round. Robbie Lawler could go 3 rounds, 5 rounds, and have an exciting fight all the time. So I think also the reason why people are turning on decisions is because people like to parlay their bets. I think like a lot of this whole people this whole changing of the guard of MMA, what used to be accepted, what used to be not accepted, is all because of betting. I feel like I know I'm gonna ruffle some feathers, but I think betting is ruining a lot of sports in general and taking a lot of fun and a lot of uh, things that we should not be critical of, uh, especially in MMA.
Yeah, John Fitch said that in my interview with him. He said, betting is, obviously he felt it's bad first of all, but he also felt that it's just kind of ruining the sport. Everything revolves around betting now. You know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, everybody's got a bet sponsor. It's
Yeah.
just yeah. He's
Not
like
the best
people.
example when I'm talking about exciting decisions with John Fitch. I'll just say that, but I understand his sentiments.
Yeah, he was just talking about betting in general and how
Mm.
the
Yeah.
sport is so beholden to it now.
Oh yes, absolutely. And unfortunately, that's gonna, it's gonna ruin, if brings in more new people, that's great, but also, this is, it's gonna make people bitch and complain a lot more because the bet didn't go their way or their parlay failed or whatever. So we're gonna have to put up a lot of that stuff, unfortunately. Doesn't mean that they're not fans of the sport, but there is, there are people who when they lose, it's like, oh no, it was a robbery or early stoppage or whatever the fuck.
Now, what did you think Gene did to get the edge in this fight?
Uh I think mostly cage control. I would give him round 1 and 2. I think by round 3 he was kind of gassing a little bit, but it's still in unified rules. Todd, 2 out of 3 can still net you the fight. So I mean, if you want to make the argument that shouldn't happen, that's an argument for a different day. But I think round 1 and 2, he was basic. He controlled. He was doing most of the aggression, landing more of the strikes. Jason Jackson tried to get in. I think Jason Jackson was maybe going to approach a grappling approach with this fight, but Thad Gene came prepared. And yeah, I think that's how excuse me, Ed won on the judges' scorecards. Now, the judge who obviously said that he thought that Jason Jackson won, I think he maybe he thought that I don't know. I because you're supposed to judge round by round. Maybe this judge took into consideration that Thad Gene's lack of action maybe in the third round was like, okay, if Jason Jackson is coming around, then I'm gonna give him the I think it was the 10-9. I think it was the 10-9 first round. Which I mean technically I guess I mean, you know, I don't know if you're supposed to do that under unified rules, but that's what this judge decided to do.
Yeah. Now, in the other match, we had Storley versus Kikuri. Now, I know this is probably close to you, so you do the We Are Rising podcast, and
Yeah.
heavy on the Japanese MMA knowledge. Maybe take us through what you thought of this fight.
I mean, listen, I'll say this. Is it I might I don't know. Is it wrong for me to say that Curry might be the best welterweight to ever come out of Japan? I don't know if I'm going to I don't know. I have to maybe stick by that. I really may have to stick by that because this was his second loss. I think it was. Was it the second loss? Was it the first loss? Let me double check on that. I think he this might be a second loss. Oh, sorry, excuse me, it was a third loss. Um, yeah, only been finished once, and then after that, he lost again to another guy, and then got back the win back. So, and then yeah, he went on that crazy streak in Bellator and then PFL, and then yeah, he had Storley, and but I mean, here's the thing, at any point, I think Kid Curry could have knocked Story's head to the third row. But listen, Story's gonna do what Story's gonna do. And the only fighters that seem to have realized that was I'm trying to think. The only fighters who really have done anything again who really have showed anything against Story was MVP. Um, was it Amazov? Was it? I think it was Amazov. Right?
Beat him and Musayev
Yes,
beat him.
that was it. Yes. Amazov, MVP. And then the Russian guy who knocked him out. Was that Magomed? Musayev. That was Musayev. Okay.
He's probably the best fighter in that.
Yeah. Sorry. There's all these Magomeds and all these. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get them all confused all the time. But yeah, him. Neiman Gracie looked okay against him, but again, Story has a specific way of fighting, and if you know, once he gets you down, man, he wet blankets you. Is it the most exciting way? No, but this is the thing about I've learned about fighters is that if it works for them, they're gonna do it to the day that they die, and even if it doesn't work for them, they're gonna still do that to the day that they die, and that's what Storley does. I do think that the finals is a lot more interesting now.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't think that Storley is as good a grappler. I mean, I don't think that Jason Jackson is as good as a grappler as Storley, but if Thaddeus comes in with the same game plan, maybe fine tuned a little bit that he did against Jason Jackson, then man, Todd, Mr. Story might lose the finals.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I think, I kind of admire Storley because that's a hard way to fight. You don't really see a lot of wrestlers, especially from the U.S., fighting that way.
Well, yeah, but also, yeah.
From guys from Dagestan fighting that way, but not wrestlers from the U.S., it seems.
Well,
So
but
he's
yeah,
kind
that's
of
great.
an anomaly in that regard. He's a
Yeah,
throwback.
but that's the thing is that he's got better Thaddeus better go to them cardio classes if he's gonna get tired in the third round. That's his Sorley will be good in round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So he better be prepared for. I'm assuming are they doing the finals 5 rounds? I think.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. We'll have to look and see.
I assume that they would be because it is for a championship.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming that that's what they're gonna do. 5 rounds, which already that favors Storley already. I don't know if Thaddeus has even done a 5-round fight in his entire career. I'd have to look that up, but yeah, if this is his first 5-rounder, oh boy, it's gonna be a tough fight for Thaddeus.
But it's an interesting contrast. I mean, he has the ability to end the fight early. Gene does.
Yeah.
Within the first couple rounds.
So he did fight for championships in on the amateur circuit. Let me see if these went 5 rounds. I don't believe they would because they are amateur. It doesn't say here. Nothing here indicates to me he's ever been in a 5-round fight as a pro. Actually, let me check this. Because listen, if you ask me if you were to put a gun to my head right now and say who do I favor, I'll put it this way. I would my brain says Storley, but my heart says Thaddeus. I just think it would be such a cool story for him to, go win that. Yeah, no, he's never been in a 5 round fight, pro or amateur. So that's already a big disadvantage for him against Dorley.
I think it'd be cool for Storley too because he's kind of older. He's he's been around quite a while.
Mm.
And I think a lot of people, at least I was looking on Twitter, like I said, there are people already writing him off, which is hard for me to believe. Like
I think I don't think people writing him off. I think they kind of just want some new blood. You want to be able to, remember when we first started talking about this tournament? You said this tournament makes stars, and Thad Jean coming in as a last minute replacement. I think was it Pinedo? I think Pinedo, who we'll talk about as well, was also a last minute replacement for one of the tournaments previously. So yeah, I think stories are more interesting when you have a guy who comes in last minute and wins the thing, who is not planned to be in there and he just fuck shit up. That's what tournament do we remember from Japan from the Dream? We remember the Super Hulk. Minowa Man, who I was Minowa Man. Wasn't he a replacement? I think for someone. I think.
yeah, Manoa man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So he was a replacement. He wound up winning it and beating all the big guys. And same thing with Pinedo, and he's been back and he's advancing as well. So I think it's more interesting as an MMA fan when at least somebody who's new, who's fresh, who we haven't seen on a championship stage get to the championship stage. I think that's so much more interesting as a fan.
yeah. I think we got two finals where you can make a case for either guy winning.
Mm,
A certain way. You know, in the other bracket. Where we had the featherweight.
yeah,
Pinedo and Kabalayev advanced.
yeah, yeah,
That's gonna be a crazy fight too. I mean, Pinedo has fight-ending power just like Gene, but Kabalayev could, wrestle him.
yeah.
And kind of like
Yeah,
Storley's fight. Kind of similar. You got a guy who could win the fight by wrestling for most of the fight and winning that way, or you
yeah,
could have someone who has fight-ending power and maybe he catches him. I
yeah.
think
I mean,
both Gene and Pinedo kind of have the same path to victory. I think.
yeah. Um, you know, Cabo Ayev, I guess if some people, he's had some pretty close fights, that he came to losing, like the Brendan Loughlin fight and Jeremy Kennedy for this season. So there is a pathway to beat him. There is a pathway to beat him. Um, Again, Pinedo better be going to those wrestling classes. I will say though, if Taekun Kim had advanced, again, would have been a cool story, especially because there's been no Koreans really. The Korean MMA scene is kind of getting a little bit of resurgence with Black Combat and Road kind of doing their thing, and so it would have been nice to have seen Kim just advance, just for like, oh, we're seeing this uptick in MMA. But listen, Dagestan is here for a while, so yeah.
Yeah, I think, like I was saying, I think the tournament has given us two really good finals.
Yeah.
And it's not a fight where you don't think either guy can win. Both of these guys can win in both of these fights.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's a test. I would definitely say that I would be more safer if you force me to bet to put money on Thad Jean beating Storley than Kabulayev over than Pinedo over Kabulayev. But I mean,
you
that's
think
not.
so? I think Kovalev, while he did wrestle really well, he kind of had trouble. He had to take his opponent down over and over and over and over and over. As where Storley won maybe two takedowns, he controls opponent for long periods of time, which is
Yeah.
a safer way to go. But I think Kabalev's going to be more in a firefight because he's going to have to take him down many times to win, and Pinedo just he gets in his face and tries to kill you. You
Yeah.
know.
I don't know. I get that, but here's the one of the things I have learned. I've come to learn about the Dagestanis. You know, they may and they it's probably a part of their training, but it's also a part of their, I guess, lifestyle. Here's is that they don't get so full of themselves to think that they can beat their opponent at what they're good at usually. Maybe Makachev is the only one,
Yeah.
but a lot of these guys, a lot of the Dagestani guys play it safe. I'm not. This is not even a criticism. They play it safe. If their opponent has a strength in this, they will make sure to never go near what this is. If their opponent has a weakness in that, they will exploit that weakness for 3 or 5 rounds, no matter what. So Pinedo's gonna be looking for a firefight. He's gonna be looking for that one punch combo, that one punch knockout. It's gonna be very hard. I guarantee you. I would not be surprised if a couple I have if his strategy is to have Pinedo almost wear himself out, because then that will just make him easy pickings for him to do what he wants to do: grapple, wrestle, hold him against the cage, take him down against the cage, and all that.
Yeah, you got both fights I think could be that way. So, although I think Storley fights a little bit less in the cage, like
I
against the fence, he
Yeah,
goes for the takedown, and he
yes,
gets it.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, these two finals are really interesting. I think
Mm-hmm.
fascinating finals we have.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I think it if Pinedo, it is interesting. I don't know. Has there ever been? So I know since Pinedo has won one, and then what's his name? Kovalev has already won one. So I'm guessing, is this the first time that two finalists from previous one uh tournaments have faced off each other?
Probably, I would think.
At least I don't know. Maybe in featherweight. I certainly I don't know
Plus,
about
this
in.
is a new thing. It's the
Yeah,
tournament now, not the season. So we can just kind of say this is the first of its
yeah,
kind. So
yeah.
yeah, I think like you were saying, or like Manny had told me, and I kind of told you, was tournaments allow guys to become stars or people that maybe weren't known or underdogs. Pinedo, I think if he wins this again, could become a star, and then also Gene, like you're saying.
Well, I think Gene. I think Gene more so. Pinedo's already had his opportunity. Listen, I would not try Pinedo. I don't know. Do you think if you win the tour, if you win this tournament twice, do you kind of just do you feel like almost if you come back, it's almost like beneath you? Do you feel like he's gonna maybe then try for going to the other the promotion in Vegas?
No, I think maybe they put him in the Champion Series at that point.
Mm,
You know,
gotcha, gotcha. Oh yeah, yeah. Um, Yeah, what'd be cool though if I wish you could. I don't know if I guess PFL would have to be like around 20 years for this or like 15 years. But like if you had different champions, like it'd be cool to just have a tournament of champions. You know what I'm saying?
that's what I
I,
think you'll see in the future as they have these different regions and they have
oh,
tournaments
okay,
in these various
yeah,
regions. You'll have champions from those regions, and then you
okay,
can have one tournament consisting of champions from all those regions.
okay, great, yeah, yeah. I forgot about yeah. I some because unfortunately, well, now that they have the PFL app, we can now watch the MENA shows and Europe shows now on the
Right.
PFL app. So I sometimes forgot that those MENA and Europe shows happened just because can't watch them over here unfortunately.
Yeah, you could crown one true champion. You could have these tournaments, and then you have one tournament later down the road
Mm-hmm.
consisting of these people that won in these various regions and weight
Mm-hmm.
classes. And yeah, almost like a blood sport type thing where you have people from
Mm.
all these different countries, so to speak.
That would be epic. That
Yeah,
would be so epic. And I bet a lot of guys who have gone to UFC are regretting, possibly not sticking around because I think they could have had a great opportunity to ascend in PFL.
yeah. I think like you and me, we're both fans of what they're doing, and I think it has potential to do something that we haven't seen in a while. since maybe Pride Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Really.
Now, of course, there won't be a one night tournament. They tried that on their, I think, first and second time, but it's too difficult to just do something like that in the United States. So that's not going to happen. This is, I guess you said, next best thing. So this is, if you like tournaments, you like seeing the best of these epic fighters fight in a setting where they actually get to advance. There's no shenanigans. There's no nothing. There's no, whatever. No points. No nothing. You win or go home. Well, even not win or go home. I know that they had the Boric, Kennedy. They had other people who. So I'm sure that they stick around as well in case if someone gets injured or something. I mean, I'll say this. While I'm happy Kevin Lee is getting a fight, I would have liked to see one of the other lightweight guys maybe get put in that spot just because they already fought, or I'm a little bit I'm a little bit 50-50 on the Kevin Lee thing, but nonetheless, um yeah, it's great what they're doing, and they're making ticket success more accessible, $25 I think it is, or whatever. Which is great. Anything that's cheap now is is a godsend, especially when UFC nosebleeds are like $4,000 or whatever it is. And then the PFL app, which just came out. Yeah, I don't know. I'm presuming that we can watch the international shows for free. I'm guessing, and then they upload previous fights on there on you from there, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope that means that they're still on ESPN though, because that's the best sort of service that you can be on, especially as a with looks like possibly UFC going, then be on PFL, being on ESPN, where hopefully if ESPN and UFC are no longer working together, hopefully that means that ESPN will start actually promoting them. Because that's the one thing. ESPN never promotes PFL, which I am sure is part of the UFC's. Okay, we're the only MMA promotion that you will do stuff for, or something along those lines. That's gotta be it. I don't know what else it could be.
The other thing I think they're doing well, and they're in a position to do that because they're not a shareholder-driven company like the UFC is now.
Yeah.
Where they still work for the fans, like the UFC used to, before they reached the point they're at now.
Mm.
Um, but another thing I think they're doing well is with the coach.
Ah, the coach. Yeah, yeah. Who would have thought 20 years ago when I was watching him be shitty on commentary in WWE Raw, and then becoming the what is it called, the general manager of Raw, having little to no charisma, and then this guy I think he was actually originally a sports guy, right? Wasn't he originally a sports announcer or something before he went to WWE?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you though? Big brain, my big brain, Todd is thinking. Do you think this guy do you think this guy will eventually become like a Ray Cephalo type? Is it? I don't know. He's not officially working for PFL, is he?
I think he's already that. I think he's the PFL's Dana figure, so to
Okay.
speak. He's not, obviously, he's not the guy running the PFL,
Yeah.
but he has taken that role of being the visible person who does the press conferences and,
Because when I
a
used to,
lot of the sit downs they were doing with Gene and
yeah,
Jackson. He's the
what
visible person.
when I cover PFL, it was always Ray Cephalo who
Right.
was coming out to answer. I don't know if that's still a thing. Well, right now I'm just waiting for my press credentials for the New Jersey show to be approved, and then I can see there. But every PFL show from the beginning, it's always been Ray Cephalo who was doing the Dana White thing. So I wonder if that means that, I don't know if Ray Cephalo's planning on retiring, if Ray Cephalo is just going to do matchmaking and not do that anymore, and then just John Coach will kind of be de facto spokesman.
Yeah, I think he's doing a good job, which I think is another thing that PFL is doing from a presentation of the product
Yeah.
standpoint. They're they're making a good move there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. No, he really, he knows how to connect. I know it's so funny because he couldn't connect with me on WWE Raw, but this guy, he's much more. I don't know. Maybe he, it sounds like he actually is into it, which obviously helps. So good on him. I'm glad that he's so far succeeding in this the general manager of on screen manager of PFL.
Yeah, I think they're making a lot of good moves, whether people want to give them credit for it or not.
I mean, yes. I mean, yeah, they absolutely are. People wanted tournaments. They wanted the point system gone. They've already done that. They wanted elbows. They already got that. They want to watch their international shows, which PFL app now does that. So they got that. That's three things. Um, they wanted so the other thing is the Universal Studios thing. You know, it's interesting because people have said that they actually want to pay for shows, pay for tickets to go to PFL. But beyond that, they lower the ticket prices to $25. That's four things. That's four things PFL has done in response to fan whatever, and also released all those fighters that they said that they said that you want them to go to USC. So I'll count that as five things. That's five things that they've already done. That's already more than one thing that fans have wanted to see. That's John Jones versus Tom Aspinall, which is one thing UFC could do and make all the fans happy, but that has not happened. But PFL has done five times to count to quote Booker T. Five things. Not really the quote, but yeah, that PFL has done to be fan first, fighter, well, fighter friendly, fan friendly to all the PFL maniacs out there.
Yeah, it's I'm excited to see. We'll get into the next show in the next episode, but like I said, seeing these tournaments play out, it's kind of unfolding exactly as I remember in Bellator. I got more excited with each round. I was more interested. Now we've gotten to see these guys a couple times. You know, we're going to see them for a third time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of building a storyline, like you said, for Gene
Yeah,
especially. Um,
yeah. One of the things that comparison to the Ryzen Flyweight tournament, which what they just announced the eight people for it, and it's you know they got eight good great fighters in there. But one of the criticisms I heard was that it's this we have seen these eight people fight, with the exception of one or two, just continuously on loop for the last 2 to 3 years. And at least the good thing about the PFL one is that we got to see new fighters who have never been featured, or Thad Gene being one of them, who have never been featured, and probably never been seen by American audiences, like by a huge American audience until he fought in PFL. And same thing with well, I guess if you watch Bellator, you saw Kid Curry, but Kim certainly I don't think ever got that those eyes on him. I would say as well. What was the other name? I was going to good. Well, he lost in the original in the first round, but Joseph Luciano as well. Who I would pick to that I thought was going to win, but yeah, yeah. That's the thing is that we got to see old blood and we got to see new blood, and by new blood I mean just new fighters, and I think that's also important in a tournament if next year if they ran the same names, I don't think you can do the same names every year. You just have to find new people, even if that means sometimes cutting out the old heads because
oh,
you
you
just
can't. The guy who won the tournament has to fight the
oh
champion.
except yeah with him yeah with the
Period.
exception yeah that's the exception but like you can't get everybody who was in the tournament for the previous year. You can't just have them. You can't just have it all on rotation every year. You have
Yeah,
to
you gotta have
change it
different.
up. And I think that's one of the good things is that we it's not especially this year we haven't seen a lot of it's not the same people. This is Jason Jackson's first tournament. Um, Thad Jeans, like we said, Keith Curry's, Storley's. Pinedo and Braga have both done this. So they were new to their respective things, but Jeremy Kennedy and Borix. No, not, I'm sorry. I think Kennedy's been in a tournament, right?
Yeah, he was in the
Yeah,
tournament. And he
that's what
lost
but
to
Borks was
Habalayev.
Borks was new to the tournament as well. So that's the great thing is that's a mix of old blood, new blood, which I think makes for a great tournament. If you have too much old blood, you've already seen them fight. Yeah, whatever, with the exception of the champion. That's the one exception. But if you have too much new blood, I think you kind of want you need to have a nice balance. What that balance is, I don't know, but PFL I think mostly got it right for this first time single elimination tournament.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, it's always great talking with you about these events, and next we'll cover the next round here coming up on the what is it, the next weekend?
June 20th. Oh yeah, my God, already. Yeah. So that's on a Friday this time.
Mm-hmm.
On a Friday. Okay. Um, so yeah, that'll be on Friday, June 20th. Everybody knows where to see it. If you're in Kansas though, in Trust Bank Arena, which is nowhere near me, but
It is
Wichita.
it's not that far from me actually. I could.
You should try to go. You should try to go.
Yeah,
Tickets are only $25, I hear. Or
yeah,
put in press credentials. Put in some press credentials.
yeah. I don't know. I'm always busy, but who knows? Maybe I'll do it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But yeah, it's always great talking to you. I love that we're doing this show. Um, we're one of the few people that's covering the PFL regularly.
So I was actually just looking around to see who else covers PFL. There's one other guy who I love. His name is Axel MMA who does it, but the rest are just betting ones. I don't consider betting things preview shows because you're not coming with, I don't want to say fan approach, but you're coming in with that with kind of like that, just a little bit of a not a but you know what I'm saying, right? There's a
Right.
little, it's a different, yeah, but like a true just like looking at it, dissecting the fights. We do that. That guy Axel MMA does it. He also does it for Ryzen as well. And yeah, there's very few who are doing this for PFL.
Yeah. But we're one of the few. If any of you guys that like this new PFL, you come find us, or we'll give it to you.
Absolutely.
We'll give you what you want.
Yes.
Andrew, as always, appreciate you taking the time.
Yep. Absolutely.
Appreciate having a partner in covering this.
Well, absolutely, absolutely.
And,
Listen, because PFL continues doing it, I'll continue being here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Everybody who supports the show, we appreciate it. Check it out. Till next time, take care.